These third-gen Toyota Tacomas, I think, have a giant design flaw on the front end, and that's this front cross member. So today, I'm going to upgrade that because we've got girth brooks all taken apart. We might as well take care of this right now. And if you, like me, have been wondering how much the Samurai weighs and how much Yeti weighs, we're finally going to get those on scales and figure out exactly what the numbers are.
Bare minimum, we're cutting that off, but what I'm tempted to do is also cut like this back. But I don't know, I guess we need to put a radiator in it and a grill before we make any hard decisions.
The rest of the repair parts for girth brooks are pouring in, and so this makes it to where I can now like hang the front grill mount and figure out exactly how far forward, you know, the nose of this Tacoma is going to be regardless of my trimming, and then figure out like, is it fruitful? How much trimming is necessary? Bare minimum, we've got to cut this cross member, so I had Nick do that. But now that we have the rest of this stuff to kind of like cobble on there, we can have a really good look at like where the winch is going to fit once we have like a radiator and condenser and stuff mounted in there. It's officially begun. We are going to make a proper winch mount on the front of this Tacoma. The factory bumper mount is just not strong enough for heavy duty off-roading like what we like to do in this truck. And you can see it on both sides. There's cracks, and this has nothing to do with the elk and everything to do with the fact that we we had a winch like way out here, and we're like yarding this entire truck through boulder fields and whatnot. And the only thing that was really joining the front of this to this was 4 little bolts here, and then like a special brace that, in my opinion, I mean, it's the best you can do with what you got, but the right way to do this is to build a heavy duty front cross member. Not only are we going to gain all that clearance from the old cross member, but I'm seeing a winch plate welded across the front here, and we'll just build our own cross member out of like 1/4 inch or something like that. We're gonna upgrade winches while we're at it to something wireless. I have this exact winch on many other projects, and these are really, really good winches for the price. So we'll have wireless controls, which is gonna be a very nice upgrade. And because we were able to pull the top off of this, we're basically going to remote mount the control box and make it to where this is as slim as possible, and we can try to make this like high and tight. After digging around online, this does not appear to be a very common modification to these trucks. And I don't think that's because it's not needed. I think it's just because these are still new enough and expensive enough. A lot of people don't like to just cut big parts off of them. However, I did find a company called C4 that makes a kit that accomplishes a very similar thing. I mean, the same thing essentially. They remove the cross member with their kit, which gives you a much higher profile. So I know that there are other people thinking about this, and for me, I wanted to do this all on like to be as budget friendly as possible, because I'm trying to maximize this insurance money that I got from State Farm. So instead of buying a kit, I bought like a really big sheet of 1/4 inch plate for like 80 some odd bucks in the remnant section of my local steel yard, and this is going to give me enough 1/4 inch plate to do this project and a few more. You could couple that with the fact that we're using a very budget friendly winch, and I think that this is a modification that I think is accessible to a lot of people. However, if you don't have the tooling to do this, or you don't have the know-how to do this, that C4 kit looks like it's probably pretty good, and it might make it easier even if you want to give it to an installer, someone that you trust to weld this stuff back together for you. Based on the bump that was on that thing, we'd probably have 2 inches higher clearance. So why don't you remove this bit of exhaust? Looks like it just slips in and bolts into that cat.
Little clamp there.
So maybe we can get away with slipping a piece of pipe in there and then going underneath here. We'll just have to wrap it where it goes near the T-case. While I'm chipping away at this front cross member and fixing what I believe to be a factory design flaw, if you're building an off-road truck, Nick is going to be fixing another factory design flaw. This crossover pipe should have never went underneath the transfer case in a vehicle that is touted as a TRD off-road. If you're going to go off-road, this exhaust is going to hit everything up into the transfer case, and that's exactly what happens to everybody who wheels these rigs off-road. So we're going to make a very simple solution to this really simple problem, and we're going to extend the exhaust out behind the transfer case, in my opinion, how it probably should have been from the factory. And then this is going to give us like 2 more inches of belly clearance, and now also not have that low-hanging fruit, which has kind of been plaguing me since I bought this truck. right. Oh yeah. That's definitely higher clearance. It's real close to our skid though, isn't it?
A little tight.
I wonder if we need to get a flex pipe here. Well, we'll see. I don't think that's gonna vibrate around too much. Yeah, so now we need to come straight back and have this kind of turn in and then go on over that, I guess. Oh yeah, that 2.5 is gonna be snug like a bug in a rug or whatever. It's
Going over.
oh dude, so tight. Yeah, I hate that a lot. We're gonna have to offset up and through. It's the only way. At some point, I need to show you the different oddball skids that I've come up with down here, like this long drive shaft skid, which is working out great, and then the skid for our battery mount, and I will cover that at some point. I'm gonna have two pieces of steel sandwiched together and then weld it around, but in case any moisture gets in there, I think it's important to have things coated in weld-through primer. I've been using weld-through primer a lot more over the last couple of years, and this just seems like the perfect project for it. This might be the understatement of the year, but this Toyota Tacoma is the opposite of a budget build. However, I do want to be frugal when I build things, and so we're going to use the little bit of scrap that was literally laying on the floor that was off the back of this winch plate, and I'm going to use that as a fair lead mount. It'll be like a good start, and there are faster ways of doing this if I just broke out like a chunk of, I don't know, 1/4 inch by 3 wide or 1/4 inch by 4 wide plate, or flat bar rather. But instead, let's just do whatever we can to use some scrap. I mean, just like anybody else, I want to try to use up as much scrap as I can and try to make these projects as budget friendly as possible. Check out the new 1/4 inch thick cross member. This little rim along the back here is extremely important. If you've never built a winch plate before, what'll happen is whenever you're winching over something really heavy, like I do in this big old Tacoma, is the winch is trying to pull forward. If you just have a piece of horizontal 1/4 inch plate back there, it's not hard to bow this, especially if you have a lot of force like what this is going to generate. But as soon as you put a vertical piece in right here, it strengthens it up substantially, like in a humongous way. This is also going to weld into the frame, nice and tight there, nice and tight there. We're going to weld this into the frame here. We're going to weld it all around here. I tried to give myself plenty of inches of weld. And then who knows, I might add a couple more gussets and stuff once we get it on there, but right now we're just trying to get a baseline established. I'm going to have some tube that's going to come off of here. I haven't figured out that part out yet. I'm just starting with the basics, getting everything done that I know is going to be in there for good and welded in there for good. And then I can kind of go from there. This is why I never get anything done. Well, I get started on projects. And then I go to Harbor Freight and get pallets worth of things. Nice, that is all my stuff.
Think you were lying to me?
Well, I would never use such a strong word. It's so rude.
I don't
Oh yeah, we just barely making it in there.
Yep.
One of the really challenging parts of this job, if that's what you want to call it, is, I guess I would say life, is I'm always trying to get like the next videos lined up while I'm making this one, and that's what's going on right now, is I've got all this stuff coming up. I'm building a 50-inch press brake. We've got a Harbor Freight trailer that's gonna show up, the new like $999 Harbor Freight trailer that's showing up next week. So I'm trying to get like tongue box, all this stuff, all at the shop so that we can just get a lot of stuff in front of us. But what sucks is that every time I leave, Nick's just there, you know, by his lonesome trying to get things done because I'm not there.
Hey guys, this is Nick. I'm working on the exhaust for the Tacoma. Needed a way to connect the two halves together, so I built this fly pipe, and now we're gonna see if it fits.
I was so happy to edit this and see that Nick talked to the camera when I wasn't there. I like low-key try to encourage everyone to start a YouTube channel, and hopefully this is Nick putting his foot in the door to show that he's interested in maybe one day doing his own channel.
I think that'll work. As you can see, things are pretty tight in here. We've got to go up and over our bracket for the battery skid plate. But yeah, it's coming along.
When I build exhaust systems, I do what's practical. It doesn't have to all be stainless. It doesn't have to all be like mandrel bent. I'm not building anything high performance here. So it's like a combination of like I TIG weld all the butt joints and the things we kind of had to custom make, and then we MIG weld pretty much everything else. And Nick put together a system here that I think is going to work really good to be high clearance, because our priority is not power or anything else, which this will not hinder, but our priority is just high clearance. Let's get something that's not going to be just destroyed by rocks every time we go out and go off-road. Ready to burn this in. I want to get this mounted and welded and done and going on to the next task, but I realized that now is the time to drill any holes and tack on any nuts that I would need to easily and securely mount the skid plate that we're going to build for this in the future. So I'm just going to go up to the hardware area, grab some spare hardware, and figure this out real quick, and then we can actually weld this cross member on, get everything burned in, and then move on to the next step, which will probably be gusseting. This is the factory cross member, and as you can see, it's thin and light and went right there. So I just saved myself 3 3/4 inches of height, which is awesome. And we moved the winch from here back there, so it's not gonna look like it had an underbite anymore. I think that we're gonna be able to achieve a much better look. I'm gonna add some tube and stuff right here to go underneath our grill and lights to kind of protect them, and then also just give it kind of that clean look. This is, also, for those of you who are new to fabrication, this is like $25 to $35 worth of steel. If you buy it in the remnant section of your local steel yard. I have been all over the steel yards, all over my area, and I know which one gives me the best price per pound if I buy remnant sections, and that's why I was able to get all this steel for like 25 to 35 bucks. So do your legwork. Not all steel yards are created equal, and the prices vary wildly. Anywho, the problem that we just caused for ourselves with this design is that this is very heavy duty. This is great for winching and all that other stuff, but it's mounted to something that's much thinner and weaker. This factory front frame horn is 2 inches by 3.5 inches. So it's not very big, and that's definitely less than an 1/8 inch thick. It's pretty thin. It's connected to something that is not thin and doesn't have any flex. So before, the frame horn would do this a lot. And my bumper, I know this because my bumper would like go up into my light. It would rub into stuff, even though I gave it like a 1/2 inch gap all around everything, because there's just so much flex in a chassis that's designed this way, or a frame that's designed this way rather. So in order to keep cracks from forming around our welds, I need to figure out a way to put like as many inches of weld between this and that, so that what happens instead of cracks forming is it just grabs into it so tightly that it just reduces the wiggle like a lot. It's gonna reduce it right now, but I think if we just left it as is, it's very likely that we're gonna start to get cracks to form. So what I'm gonna do as the first attempt at this problem is I'm gonna trim away a little bit of this body mount. I'm gonna throw like a 1/4 inch cap right here, weld it in the bottom, weld it on the front. And then I might try to add like a triangle gusset or two on the inside as well. In the gusseting process of building this cross member, I'm gonna continue to try to save money. So I'm literally picking more pieces off the floor that we trimmed away whenever I was shaping this unit as a whole, and then we'll just trim away from that remnant section that we bought at the steel yard and try to figure out something that's going to make sense, something that's going to be affordable, finish weld around everything, as well as even add some plug welds here and there, just to make this grab into that steel frame as much as possible. I might even, whenever we do the tube section, I might like reach some of that tube back into the frame as well, just to try to do our best at reducing the risk of cracks forming around our welds long term. Difficult to tell what happened in the footage here, but basically after finish welding the initial plate, we added triangular gussets in a couple different dimensions. And then after plug welding everything, also between that, I like painted everything with weld through primer and then finish welded everything on the outside. So all these gussets are really stout in the way that they hold this frame together. And then I was like filling every hole with as much primer as I could to coat everything in paint. It's so difficult to get paint on every little nook and cranny, but you got to try your best. And then after taking a little break from this project to go film some snow content, I got super sick and haven't touched this in like a week. Jesus. Dirty lens. Hello. I've been sick for quite a few days, but Nick's back to work from his holiday, and now he's going to continue to work on the Tacoma, and I'm going to continue to lick my wounds so we can finish up this video.
Hey, it's Nick. I am underneath the Tacoma, working on the exhaust. Let me show you what we got so far. Okay, we've got our Y-pipe finished. We've got a flange. We've got most of an ugly hanger, and we are up and over our battery skid plate. So next up is to hang the muffler and try to start connecting the dots.
I personally prefer to pay an exhaust shop to do exhaust systems, but I've been burned like 3 times in a row now of shops, and I've been jumping around from shop to shop, and they just are doing shoddier and shoddier work. I think they're having a hard time finding quality help. So for that reason, we're going to do this ourselves. It's a very simple system. We just need to make it high clearance, and we're going to paint all of our joints with a high temp paint. It's basically for like grills and stuff, but I've been using this on exhaust and it's been working pretty good on the last few systems that we've done here in-house. I know that a lot of folks are going to wonder why I wouldn't do stainless. I like stainless exhaust if it's going to be able to be built in a way that it won't get reached up and touched from rocks, but I don't want to spend the time into building an exhaust system like that or the money, knowing that this is a very long wheelbase. There is a high likelihood that in the next year or two of wheeling, this exhaust is going to become damaged in some way, because that's how the last two systems were in this Tacoma. So for that reason, we're just building everything out of mild steel, painting it. We're going to wrap anything we need to in header wrap in order to keep the heat away from any sort of sensitive bits of the truck, and that's it.
This, I think, is like running out of stuff to buy. So more expensive than pieces of metal. Apes and all that shit.
Because we're going to have to cut a huge...
That's all trash.
That was a brand new piece.
3 different levels of eBay to sell.
Because maybe that snaps in there. Oh, yeah. I bet you that's how that works. Hold it. I just want to come back and look. Look at that. It's almost a Tacoma again. It's so close. So I'm going to trim that and then do some funky plasty weldy jobs type stuff in order to make that look like one factory piece. So then we can put our bumper right below there and then taper up and follow that lower bit of plastic.
Much better with that winch pushed back in there. I mean, the nose sticks out far as shit, don't get me wrong. But like, compared to the underbite that I had before, like this is gonna look really good. Yeah, this all like...
We just want to hear this thing start. We've got the other battery located underneath, but we haven't ran the wire to it. I'm still a little tired. I vote that we get this thing started, watch it steer. It's kind of a big moment. And then I have a whole bunch of certified scales. I think I want to go like weigh a vehicle or two. I think that seems like that would be funner than this. What do you say?
I'm all for that.
I'm sure you want to weigh your van.
I got the wrong one here, but yeah, okay. I do want to weigh. I'll weigh that one too.
All right.
It's gurgling.
It's not whining at all. Should get lower as I steer it. It unloads that suspension.
Well, how's the clearance look under there? Oh yeah, it's so much better. No exhaust going up underneath there anymore. I want to start by weighing this one. Four-wheel certified scales. Oh, my. Big little glow plug. There we go. Okay, we got 1020, 1060. What? Is that right? Is that right? Oh, we are sloped. Yeah. It'll still be an accurate weight, but it won't be like, you won't be able to measure the distribution very well. 940 and 1080. 4,100. I would have never guessed it's that much.
That's high.
That's way higher. That's That is about 700 pounds higher than I would have guessed. Wow. Well, this is why it's nice to have scales. I mean, granted, we have all the, you know, tools and all that stuff, but it's still a couple hundred pounds at most of gear with all my camera gear in there and everything. Wow. 4,000. 4,100.
We were guessing like 35.
That's
34.
Tops.
Tough to beat.
It's gonna be tough to beat. The thing is, this is so custom, it's hard to guess. My guess has been this was around for like 4,100, 4,200. God, if it's over 45, I'm gonna be so sad because I tried to keep it light. Well, let's see. We're at 1160, 920. 1160, 920. Okay. 940. And 1220. 42. What? And what did that weigh? 51. No way.
Pretty close.
No wonder this is doing so good in the snow.
Yeah.
Because that does amazing in the snow. I was thinking this just barely weighs more, meaning like 600 pounds more. But this weighs like, it's within 100 pounds.
Beast tires.
Isn't that is so insane. With those big Unimog axles, this barely weighs more than that. Full custom tube chassis. I mean, they're both aluminum bodied. Wow, that's nuts. So this weighs, with Unimog portals and 43s, this weighs the same as my, oh, this weighs less than my TJ did with the same motor. That's crazy. Because the TJ was on half-ton axles, it was on Dana 44 Ford 9-inch. Wow. This Samurai is such a rare combination of parts and pieces. The fact that we have portals and 43s and twin piston 1-ton brakes and all this gear, and we're still only 4,200 pounds, is unbelievably rare to find something that has those qualities and it's still this light. But gosh, 2025 is going to be so good. I want to use this Samurai a lot this year, and it's just shaping up to be such a sweet truck. I think that when we start to go out and have fun with other really good builds, we're going to see that this Samurai is pretty special. And Yeti could go on a bit of a drivetrain diet. The fact that this engine is $599, we weighed it, or $598, and then the transmission and transfer case both have like cast iron housings. I think that that's where all of our weight is coming from in this build. So if I decided that I wanted to do a Volkswagen TDI, maybe a lightweight 5-speed Toyota manual transmission into like an aluminum housed Dana 300 or something like that, I bet you we could shed 500 or 600 pounds out of Yeti for next snow season. But for now, we're just going to enjoy this thing as is and just be happy that we have it. Well, as Jeremy Clarkson would say on that bombshell, it's time to end. Isn't that what he would say? That's what he used to say in Top Gear all the time. I didn't get as far as I wanted to on the Tacoma in this video, but I've been so sick. So we're gonna redo. Next video is gonna be the new Harbor Freight trailer. Just came out underneath that tarp, so we're gonna get started on that one. I need to let Nick get home and maybe decide if he wants to bring his van back so we can weigh it too.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see you later.